Did you know that there's a business credit score that very few people know about that actually brings together your personal credit scores and your business credit scores? And it's used by all kinds of lenders and credit issuers to determine if you should get approved for money, how much money you should get approved for, and the rates and terms you pay. Well, this is called the FICO SBSS score. And during today's training, I'm going to show you what the score is, how it works. We're going to break it down. I'm going to teach you how to control your score, everything you need to know to be able to have a strong FICO SBSS score. This is essential. You can't even get an SBA loan unless you have a high enough SBSS score. You can't even get good terms on a lot of financing that comes from banks unless you have a good FICO SBSS score. And once you know how it works, you're going to see how easy it is to make sure your score is good. We've got a lot to cover, so let's dive in. So what is FICO SBSS? Well, this is basically kind of like the business version of your consumer FICO score. So we're obviously familiar with FICO, right? FICO score is the main score that's used in the consumer credit reporting world. Well, the FICO SBSS score is used by a lot of lenders, as we'll talk about, and it's basically the business version of your FICO score that comes from FICO itself. Now, it's becoming more common that lenders are using. As a matter of fact, you can't even get an SBA loan unless you have certain FICO SBS scores. We're going to talk about today what kind of SBA loan you may be applying for and how high your scores need to be to get qualified for each one of those programs. And again, rather than the Experian Business Credit Score or even the DMB Credit Score, this is a score that kind of uniquely combines together a lot of your business credit scores and consumer credit scores based on however the lenders want to actually break the score down. And we'll talk about that because this is different for every lender. They decide the factors that are actually calculated into your FICO SBS score, as you'll learn about quickly and soon enough. So it stands for FICO Liquid Credit Small Business Scoring Service. That's what FICO SBSS stands for. And unlike your personal FICO score, the SBSS score ranges from 0 to 300. So 300 is the highest score you can get. It means you are the lowest risk. It's what you want to have. And 0 is what you don't want to have. That's the worst score you can get and indicates you're a very high risk. So the higher score you get, the better. And most lenders demand a score of at least 160. We're going to talk about what lenders look for and what SBA looks for, because there's a difference between them. And it's interesting because we're going to talk about how you really can't even have acceptable scores unless you do certain things like having business credit established. So most lenders use this score these days. And here's why. Because most big banks, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, these are what are known as conventional banks in my world of business financing. They all offer SBA loans. So if we look at Bank of America, Chase, any of the big banks, well, they also obviously offer business loans. But the problem is that they are government insured. So they're required to be very conservative on their risk. So most loans for businesses that come from conventional banks come from SBA. SBA guarantees them. Well, SBA requires certain minimum SBSS scores to even get approved. This is why all the banks are now using them. The major banks are using SBSS because because SBA requires SBSS be used for qualification. So that means all the big banks are using. So it's more comprehensive and complete than other scoring models because, as you'll see, it pulls in data and scores, including financial data, but it pulls in scores from all the commercial reporting agencies and the consumer reporting agencies. That's why it's seen as such a comprehensive and complete score, because it's pulling in all of these different scores that you're used to on the consumer and commercial side. And that's because it considers more than just past payment information. It looks at other things like fundability. It looks at your consumer credit picture. It looks at your business credit picture. It looks at your financial picture. It really pieces together all of those to give lenders a really good idea of what kind of risk you may have. Bismarck Sanchez, thanks for coming in from Facebook. I appreciate it. Good morning. Michael coming in from YouTube as well. Denise, good morning. I appreciate you coming in and saying that you love this live chat. I appreciate you tuning in. And good morning, CS. Thanks for coming in as well. So the SBA uses it as a pre-screener for almost all of its loans. And I say some of it, but the reality is the sum kind of applies to PPP loans, right? So like PPP loans and things like that didn't even require a credit score. So I've got to put the word sum in there. But if you're getting approved for any kind of typical normal SBA loan, from microloan to 7A to 504, the names that they usually or that they use to classify their products, then you're going to have an acceptable FICO SBSS. The only real exceptions to that is, like I said, PPP loans, things like that came out as part of COVID. It's not as necessary. The SBA does not itself lend money again, but it guarantees lenders in case you default. And the SBA sets a minimum FICO of 150 to be eligible for a 7A loan. A 7A loan is their normal, typical working capital loan. If you go get $300,000 from SBA to use for whatever purposes you want, that's what a 7A loan is. That's the most popular loan with them. You need a 150 in order to get approved with that. You also need a 140 to get approved for their Community Advantage loan, and you need a 130 to get approved for their Express Bridge loan program. So depending on what you're applying for with the SBA, you need a 130 to a 150 score. Now, here's what's interesting. As you will soon realize, this pulls in business credit scores, then consumer credit scores. Mathematically, the way this score works, it is impossible to have a 140 score if you don't have any business credit established. That's very important to know, which means if you ever want to walk into a big bank and get an SBA loan, you have to have business credit established. There's no way around it because the SBA requires a minimum FICO score of 130 to 150. You can't have a score in that range if you don't have any established business credit. So that means you have to establish business credit to be able to get loans from these big banks, because if you don't have an SBSS score high enough in order to be able to get approved. Now, this minimum means that if you want these type of loans, then you've got to meet that criteria that SBA has for FICO SBSS. And it's possible to get these types of loans with a score lower than the typically required 160. But again, you're not going to get it from SBA. So let me explain this. So think of it like this. The bank offers a loan. Bank of America gives you a loan for a business for $300,000. It's guaranteed by SBA. The bank you have to meet the bank's underwriting requirements. You also have to meet SBA's underwriting requirements. Well, so because of this, and because SBA requires a minimum of 130 to 150, depending on the program that you're going through, then banks won't even look at applications typically unless your score is 160. They just won't do it. So that's the problem, is that I see typically banks will decline an application and won't even review it if your SBSS score is not 160 or higher, because they know they can't get it done through SBA. So even though SBA's 130 to 150 range is their requirement, banks say, we're going to want you to have a 160. If you don't have a 160, we're not even going to send it to SBA. We won't even underwrite the file. So you get shut down right from the beginning on SBA applications if your FICO is not 160. It's one of the first things lenders do. They pull that score. They see you're below 160. They deny the application. They never even will send the file to SBA if you typically don't have a score of 160 or higher. And Eldon, good morning. Happy New Year, Facebook. I appreciate you coming in. And New Farrig, I've been trying to get in contact with you. Get in contact. It's pretty easy. info@creditsuite.com. You can get with our team. And Tyler, good morning. And everybody, thanks for coming in from Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Everybody's tuning in today. Guys, if you're getting value from this, if you're getting information you didn't know before, please hit the like button, hit the love button. I can see that in real time. And I always appreciate if you do that. It tells the social platforms that we're giving out good information and lets them invite other people in so we can help more entrepreneurs. So I appreciate the like and the love. So how is SBSS calculated? Well, it's very different from any other scoring model I've ever seen. And I know a lot about consumer and commercial credit scores, but it provides, as I mentioned, a better picture because it incorporates so many different things. So first of all, it brings in your business and your personal credit scores. Now, before you get freaked out about that, I'm going to teach you how to weigh the score with your business scores more than personal. So if you have bad personal credit, let's be honest, a lot of entrepreneurs do because we're risk takers. So our credit reflects that, right? So if you have damaged personal credit scores and that worries you, I'm going to teach you how to get more weight to your business scores. So if you have good business credit scores, you can kind of override lower personal credit scores. Also, financial information, including business assets, revenues, those type of things come into play as well. And the point of SBSS is to get a good picture of the total fundability of your business in one score. How really likely are you to repay the debt? How much of a business risk are you really? Well, by combining these three different verticals, personal scores, business scores, and financial data, they are basically saying we give you the best picture you're going to get because we're taking all of this into account into one overall score. So the score itself isn't readily accessible, okay? The formula is well guided by FICO, and they don't make the information public. You're not going to typically go get your FICO SBSS score. The only place I've seen you're able to get it is from NAV, and I'm not even sure if NAV even offers access to SBSS anymore. They did for a limited time and then did away with it. So this is a very hard score for you to actually get, even though it's readily available for your banks. Now, again, it's very different because with the other reporting agencies, you can actually get a copy of your report, you can get a copy of your score, but you can't go to FICO and get a copy of this report or the score that they use. And there's a reason for that, because as you'll soon see, lenders actually determine how they want their own scores calculated. So there is no one FICO SBSS score. It's actually different from every lender because the lenders determine how that score is calculated, as you'll soon see. It'll make more sense. So you basically, how does a lender get it? Well, you turn in your application. Okay, then the lender processes the information and sends it to FICO to request the SBSS score. The lender then asks for certain factors in the score to hold more weight than others. Now, they don't do this every time they send it over. What happens is the lender goes to FICO and says, hey, we want to access SBSS scores. Here's how we want to prioritize what that score is, what's in that score. So let me give you an example. Let's say they come in and a typical rundown of how this could actually work is that the lender says, Bank of America says, okay, here's the deal. I want my FICO SBSS score to pull Dun & Bradstreet first, then Experian Commercial, then Equifax Commercial, then TransUnion, then Equifax, then Experian. So they determine what scores are calculated in what weight or order into your FICO SBSS. So this means Bank of America and Wells Fargo are going to have different scores, okay? Because of that, you're not going to be able to get you get one score, okay? Because if you do, then Bank of America is pulling a different score than what Wells Fargo is. Okay, so as a result of that, you're not able to get the report with one score, but the lender will say, we want our FICO SBSS to be set up this way. We want it to take into account D&B, then Equifax, then Experian, then personal scores. So it's going to be different for every lender that actually pulls it, and it's going to vary depending on the actual weight that the lender gives different factors that calculate into that score, including D&B first, Equifax first, second, et cetera, et cetera. So a score variation can happen if a lender puts more weight into your personal credit scores than business scores. Doesn't typically happen. Almost always, in every case I've seen, the lender weighs your business scores above personal scores. So if your personal credit sucks, well, then you need to build business credit because you can give your overall FICO SBSS score a big boost with good business credit scores that compensates for lower personal scores. But here's the problem. The problem is, let's say you don't have any business credit established. Here's how FICO SBSS works. You go to Bank of America, you apply. FICO SBSS is, okay, pull D&B report, nothing there. Pull Experian commercial report, nothing there. Pull Equifax commercial credit report, nothing there. Now we go to personal credit, and personal credit is the weight of the entire score because your business scores are blank. So the problem is, in that scenario, your FICO SBSS will never even be high enough to get an SBA loan with no established business credit. But it's even worse. If you have damaged personal credit, your FICO SBSS could just be in the toilet because you don't have any business credit scores to compensate for lower consumer credit scores. So that's why you need to build business credit. Okay, now, or they would choose to weigh annual revenue is more important than others. It's their choice. But again, what I've seen is that commercial credit scores are used first, consumer credit scores, and then somewhere in between, they're taking financial data and they're putting it into the overall score as well. Okay, and again, the main reporting agencies that they're using is D&B, Equifax, and Experian in the commercial world. It's just a matter of which one they prioritize are way higher than the others, and that's different lender to lender. So if FICO cannot pull enough scoring information from one business credit reporting agency, this is what I just mentioned, they move to the next. Okay, then they move to next. Then they move to personal credit. Then they move to financial. So again, I can't explain it any easier, I think, than just think of a list of D&B, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, commercial, right? Or consumer. And then financial data. Just think of that score just going down the line and pulling all the data it can get from each source. And again, the less information it can get from the top sources, D&B, Equifax commercial, Experian commercial, the more this bottom personal score weighted stuff calculates into the overall score. So if you don't want your business FICO to be calculated based on personal credit, you got to build that business credit. That's what will give the score more weight. And then your consumer credit just doesn't matter as much. But if you don't build business credit, then your consumer credit matters a lot. And that's automatically going to default by giving you a low FICO SBSS score. So some things to consider there. Now, FICO then uses the lender's weighting preferences, what we talked about, personal credit, business financial data, all these combined into that FICO SBSS score, again, into the weights that the actual lender chooses for it to be. So the SBSS uses your business credit score, your personal credit score, financial data, revenue, assets, things like that. It's a global financial picture rolled into one score, as we mentioned, and that actually comes directly from American Express. Now, your personal credit score from Experian, Equifax, TransUnion will directly affect your FICO score, and you can check those for free and get those and correct any errors. Look, I talk a lot about business credit. I'm not a consumer credit guy. I used to be. Okay, I wrote one of the best-selling books on consumer credit called Perfect Credit. Okay, so I know a lot about consumer credit scoring. But I can tell you this, it's very important as a business owner that you have your personal credit fixed. I talk a lot about separating consumer and commercial credit. I talk a lot about building business credit, so personal credit's not as important. But I will never say that personal credit isn't really, really important to getting you max financing at best terms. It is. Now, you can build a business credit profile so you can get a lot of credit without needing personal credit. But you're always going to need personal credit when you run a business. It's going to be needed for things like insurance. It's going to be needed for things like your business loans. It's going to be needed for this. So if you have any errors, you really need to get those addressed and work with a reputable credit repair company. Not me. I don't work with consumer credit, but there's a lot out there to make sure you fix those errors to have the max FICO SBSS score. Pay your bills on time. Keep your utilization low, right? Monitor your consumer credit to make sure that it's good, because as good as it can be, it really radically improves your FICO SBSS score. Now, if you have lower consumer credit, that's a whole other training. But some of the easiest things you could do is to add more payments to your credit report that you're paying as agreed. Make sure your utilization is very low. Okay, there's places like My Jewelers Club, and there's several of them out there. Ox Publishing, My Jewelers Club, where with these, they'll give you really high limit account to use in their store. And that radically improves a lot of people's credit scores that are lower because it gives you really high utilization. So you just want to use, techniques like that to make sure that you have a lot of utilization available, and the utilization is, of course, the difference between your limit and your balance. And then also make sure that you're paying your bills on time. You have as many positive payment accounts on there as you possibly can to override the negative. When I worked with consumer credit, a lot of people expect to have good scores by removing bad stuff. But I always used to say, you can't have a good score without good stuff on your credit report. It doesn't exist. So you have to focus on both, addressing any errors, negative stuff that's on your credit report that shouldn't be there, while making sure you have enough positive stuff on there to really make sure that you have good consumer credit scores. Kevin, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. Dora, hello, coming in from LinkedIn. I appreciate it. How do I find my FICO SBSS score? That's a good question. As I mentioned earlier, it's very difficult to access. Last time I checked, NAV was the only place you could access FICO SBSS, and they pulled back from it. So I'm not even sure if they're offering it now or not, but that's the only place I've ever found that offers FICO SBSS. You just can't get it from anywhere else. So I would check with NAV. It's the best place to be able to go. Kevin says, good morning. And good morning, Ty. Magnificent Solutions. I appreciate that. Iris is bringing some people in. I appreciate that as well. Teresa, good morning. Valerie, good morning. And thanks, everybody, for liking and sharing the video. And thanks also for inviting people and naming people here to invite them into the stream. I appreciate that. I really appreciate it a lot. Okay, so before you can have business credit, you have to, of course, establish your business and set it up the right way. So you want to set up a separate business entity. Okay, you also need to do that to separate personal and business liabilities, business assets. You need to incorporate your business, get your business its own phone number, its own business address, make sure it's listed congruently online with a lot of directories. Okay, make sure you run all your financial transactions through your business bank account. Of course, these are basics. You need to separate your business and make it a real entity, and then set up an address, set up a phone number, set up a bank account, start separating your personal and business transactions. Get an EIN number, get a DUNS number from Dun & Bradstreet. That's basic stuff you've got to do when you actually are setting up your business. Now, after you do that, well, then you want to start building and monitoring your business credit. A lot of people ask me this. How soon can I build business credit after I start my business? The day you start your business, you should be starting to build business credit. And now you're learning why, because if you don't, when you need a loan, when you need a credit line, when you need a credit card, then it's going to be problematic for you. As you're learning, you can't even get a loan from a big bank unless you build FICO, or unless you build business credit to get that FICO SBSS score high enough. So once you set up that business, you need to start building business credit to improve this FICO SBSS score, to override anything that you have on your consumer credit that can actually calculate into that FICO SBSS score. And to make it easier to start getting credit, loans, et cetera, for your business. So some of my favorite vendors to use to start building business credit include Crown Office Supplies, Uline, Granger. These are vendors you can get even as a startup. They'll give you credit when you have none. They report the credit to the business credit reporting agencies. So after you set up that basic structure of your business, go get some of these guys. So here's why you want to do this, because business credit scores are based on how you pay your bills. So Experian and Equifax will give you really good scores with only one account reported to them. D&B will give you a really good score with 3 accounts reporting to them, as long as those accounts are paid on time or early. So it's so simple to get good business credit scores that will really inflate, and I don't mean falsely, I mean really increase your FICO SBS score. It's so basic. Set up your business basic structure as I talked about, your entity, your EIN, your DUNS number, your address, your phone number. Make sure your records are congruent. I got a lot of training on YouTube, etc., on more things to improve your fundability. Next, get some accounts that report to the business credit reporting agencies. 1 will give you a good score with Equifax and Experian. 3 will give you good scores with D&B. Once you do this, now we're establishing D&B, Equifax commercial, Experian commercial. When FICO SBSS comes in to do its calculation, it sees you have D&B in a good score, Experian in a good score, Equifax in a good score, and your FICO SBSS is way higher with that. And even if your consumer credit's bad, those good business credit scores can really trump the consumer credit scores being damaged and can still give you a high enough FICO SBSS score. That's why building with these vendors is so important. Now, as we talked about, numbers are important. You need to get your EIN number from the IRS. Some of us think that's weird because we don't even realize you can have an entity without an EIN, but you can. You could be a sole proprietor and not have an EIN. That's why you need to consider a partnership, consider an LLC, consider a corporation where you actually get an EIN number. And make sure that you get your DUNS number from Dun & Bradstreet as well. That's completely free with D&B. Now, your BIN number, it's called a business identification number from Experian. You can't just go get that number. That number will be created the minute Experian populates a credit report for you. So what does that take? Well, it takes per Experian 1 piece of what they call firmographic information, which means if they know your business address, and they know your NAICS code, your industry code, then they will create a credit report for you and give you a failing score, even if you have no credit. Now, if you have 1 item that reports to them, that'll give you a good score. So you need to make sure that you proactively get accounts with one of those vendors we talked about to build that BIN number with Experian, because that number is important. Those are the things that they're looking for when FICO SBSS is actually calculating your score and putting together all this data from the actual reporting agencies. Courtney says, what was those companies? My Jewelers Club and Ox Publishing. So My Jewelers Club and Ox Publishing, there's a few of them out there. I've been out of consumer credit for a long time. But what these do, just so you guys know, on the consumer credit side, okay, so I'll go too far down a rabbit hole. This can help a lot of you if you have consumer credit issues. I think it can help. So I used to be in the consumer credit industry and help a lot of people improve scores. But here's the problem. You can remove all the negative you can remove off a report. You're never going to have a good score without good accounts on your credit report, consumer-wise. Good accounts mean paid as agreed, good ones you're paying on time. And it also means high limits and low balances. But the problem is people with credit issues can't get high limits. You're going to get like $500 account, $1,000 revolving account. What My Jewelers Club does, what Ox Publishing does, is they'll give you a $5,000 credit line to use in their store. Now, you should never go buy $5,000 worth of jewelry on the card. That's not the point. The point is by giving you a $5,000 revolving limit credit card and a 0 balance, boom. I mean, I would see scores spike 100 points just because that one account was there. Now, I'm not telling you that's the result you're going to get. I don't know. It's different based on everybody's credit profile. But the one change we could always do to spike somebody's credit that was really low was to come in and add one of these accounts, because it was a $5,000 limit. And since utilization is 30%, a third of your overall score, that one thing would add massive available credit. And then it would also give you a positive paid as agreed account and really increase your score. So it's just a technique that I learned and a lot of consumer credit companies use to improve your scores. That's why I talked to you about it. So Courtney, I think that can help you. Amanda says, what's the best virtual business address? I personally recommend Alliance. Alliance, you can go to creditsuite.com/virtual to get it. Alliance is good. DaVinci's okay. Regis is okay. But we really prefer Alliance. We found that Alliance is probably the best. Okay, so Dun & Bradstreet's the largest and most common business credit reporting agency. You need to get your DUNS number with them. If you want to see if you have a credit report with Experian and D&B now, it's real simple. go to creditsuite.com/reports. Creditsuite.com/reports at no cost. You can do a DMB search. You can do an experience search. You can see if they know about you now. You can see if you're established. If not, through following the same link there, you can get set up with your DUNS number at no cost. DMB might try to charge you $1,500 for the DUNS number. You don't need to pay a dime. If you go to creditsuite.com/reports, you can see if you're set up with experience, if you have a BIN number, see if you're set up with DMB, and see if you get a DUNS number or set up with DMB to get your DUNS number, all at no cost. So if you don't have a score with DMB, well, then again, you might as well not have a business credit score, because DMB's PAYDEX score is the most commonly used credit score in the business world. And most lenders that use FICO SBSS put DMB in top position. It kind of works like this. It's DMB first position, where the most weight to your overall FICO SBSS, then it's usually Experian or Equifax. Credit issuers for credit cards tend to like Experian better. Banks lending loans prefer Equifax better. So depending on what kind of account you're applying for, they're usually going to prioritize DMB first, Experian second if it's a revolving credit card account, or Equifax second if it's a loan. And then the third one is, Experian if it's a loan, or Equifax if it's a credit line. Then they go to your consumer scores. So you really got to make sure you're set up with DMB and establish that PAYDEX. Remember, to get a PAYDEX, you need two things: a DUNS number, which I told you how to get, and then 3 accounts reporting to DMB. If you do those 2 things, that will give you a PAYDEX score. Now, your credit history is the crux of what makes up that business credit score, and your business credit scores we talked about is a big part of it. So you really need to make sure you establish those business credit scores to make sure that you have a high FICO SBSS. So what are they looking for with credit history? How many accounts are currently reporting? How long you've had each account for? What type of accounts they are, revolving, loans, etc. How much credit are you using versus how much is available? Are you making your payments on these accounts on time? If not, how late are you making them? Remember, in the consumer world, you're not considered late unless you're 30 days late. In the business world, 1 day late is 1 day late. So they classify it like 1 to 10 and 20 to 30 days late. So you really need to make sure that you're not late. Pay the bill as soon as possible. That will calculate into your business score. So those are the kind of things that looking at that determine what your actual score will be with the reporting agencies. Now, FICO searches business credit information from a number of different agencies. So we talked about the main 3 is DMB, Equifax, Experian. So you need to monitor your business credit. If you go to creditsuite.com/monitoring, it's only $24 a month to monitor business credit with all 3, Dun & Bradstreet, Equifax, and Experian. You can't even monitor business credit with Equifax directly right now. We don't know why. They're doing something that we don't yet know. But I will tell you that if you go to creditsuite.com/monitoring, you can get credit with all 3, Equifax, Experian, and DMB through NAV. Okay, and you only get it for $24. It's $250 from the reporting agency. So you need to monitor your business credit reports. I don't care. You can go to them directly, but they're going to charge you $250 if you want the cheapest place on the planet to get business credit scores. Go to creditsuite.com/monitoring. We work with NAV to be able to roll out a product that's even cheaper than them. They were so kind to let us do that, and it's just because we wanted them to be so cheap that everybody could get them and monitor business credit scores, because it's so important for you to do so. So several loan applications are turned down each year due to fraud concerns. So you got to make sure, as I mentioned, that all of your information is congruent. Make sure DMB, Equifax, Experian have the same NAICS or industry code. Make sure your business address, your business name, all of that stuff's the same. Remember, the reporting agencies assign records based on each business with its own unique location. That means if you change addresses and you don't update it everywhere online or with the bureaus, they may think you have 2 businesses and you have 2 DUNS numbers. This happens all the time. So the easiest thing is to always make sure your address information is congruent. And if you ever change it everywhere online, change it with your bank, change it with a DMB, Equifax, Experian to make sure that all that information is the same. Very important, because the bureaus all have comparison scores where they compare you to other people in your industry. But if they don't have your industry code right, then they're comparing you to other businesses, and you could be way higher risk than what you really are, because you're being compared to businesses in an industry that you're not even in. So you've got to monitor those business credit reports and make sure that data is so important. It's just very, very, very important. Joe says, finance a 2021 Mercedes GL 300 Coupe, 1228, just with business info on a half-page application with Ally with no proof of revenue, but have an 8.44 APR due to bureaus not showing accurate limits. So congratulations, Joe. And Joe just brought up a good point about building business credit. He just got a brand new Mercedes GLC 300. Nice car. And he got it with his business only, no personal guarantee, no personal credit check, with only filling out a half-page application with my favorite lender in the business space, Ally. I like Ally because they'll give you these business loans without a personal guarantee and credit check. And that's not a bad rate of 8.44%, considering it's in the business name. It's not even with him personally being liable for that. Okay. And also, Courtney comes in and says, so my D&B credit score went from the mid 500s to, I believe, the low 300s due to an oversight. If I pay the balance, how can I recover from the low score to get it in good standing in business credit? First of all, those scores don't make sense because the paydex score only goes from 0 to 100. But the answer is you could dispute it directly with D&B, but you need to know that if you dispute that account with D&B, Courtney, they'll remove the whole account. It goes. It's not like they're going to fix the payment history from bad to good. They're going to remove it. You also should know that the score with the bureaus is only weighted over 12 months. So in time, it will go up automatically. And one of the best things to do is add more positive accounts to your business credit reports. If you do that, then that's really going to get those scores to be higher. And Amanda from Facebook says, what about if we do have two separate businesses? That's okay. You want two EINs, you want two DUNS numbers, you want credit profiles for each business. That's good. If you do that, you should be able to build a business credit profile for every business that you have. You just don't want them to think you have multiple businesses when you only have one. That's why you always want to make sure your information is congruent online. And Courtney says, congratulations to Joe. That's cool. And that's what I love about our tribe and our community is that you guys root for each other. I think that's awesome. And New Farrig says, what is a good business credit score? Depends. With FICO, remember 160 is the minimum that you're going to get into banks with. So 300 is the best you can have. So you really want to shoot for at least 200 and above with FICO SBSS. If you talk about D&B, a good score is 80 and above. With Equifax and Experian, 80 or 90 above is good from their main credit scores. Remember, guys, each of these bureaus offer about 5 scores, but the best score with Experian, Equifax, and D&B, all of them, is really a 90 or higher on their main scores, which range from 0 to 100. And with FICO SBSS, you really want to have a 200 or higher, even a 250 or higher if you can actually get it. So do your insurance policies all have the same correct information? Again, everything needs to be congruent online. I just can't say that enough. That's the key to making sure that your records are organized correctly with the business credit reporting agencies. So to recap, your FICO SBSS score isn't available to you from FICO because it's different. And that's why I don't even think you can still get it from that, because this score changes from lender to lender. It's not like you're going to pull a FICO SBSS score and it's going to be the same as what you get from Bank of America. It doesn't work that way. They're choosing what they're weighing into the score in what order. It's different for every bank. So your score is going to be different from every bank that pulls it. That's what makes this score so unique, is the lender can determine how the score is weighted. Okay. And again, it takes into account financial data, personal credit, and business credit scores, those three. But remember, it pulls business credit data first. All lenders I've seen do that. So you got to build business credit to get a good FICO SBSS. That will overweigh a lower consumer credit score. So some things to think about. Also keep in mind that your financial data is yours. It's your choice. If you have good tax returns, send them to Dun & Bradstreet. Send them to the business credit reporting agency so they can put that stuff on your business credit report and it can be used here. If your financial data is crappy, your revenue's small, you're losing tons of money on your tax returns, you probably don't want to supply that financial data to D&B, and you'll be scored differently when they don't have it. But a lot of people don't realize you could take your own tax returns and submit them to D&B, and your revenues, your profits, that stuff shows on your tax returns, and it's calculated into FICO SBSS. That's how they get it. You're actually providing the data to them. That's your choice, whether you provide that or not. So if you'd like to get your business credit reports for free with Dun & Bradstreet, Equifax, and Experian, give us a call at 877-600-2487. Email us at info@creditsuite.com. Or you can go to creditsuite.com/consult. When you do any of those three things, we'll give you a free consultation where you get your D&B, Equifax, Experian credit scores for free. You don't have to pay anything for them. They're $250 from the bureaus. We go over them. We give you tips and tactics to build your business credit. We qualify you for all the financing you can get now so you know what money you can get now. And then we help talk to you about fundability. We'll look and see, is your address, is your name off in these areas lenders look? We even have a back-end system that pulls information from the same secret credit reporting agencies lenders use into a fundability report that you can access with us that even shows you all the discrepancies on your business so you can fix that stuff. And that stuff's very important to having good business credit quality. And if you got value from this, please do me a favor. Just hit the like button, hit the love button. It's so simple. And I can see that in real time. And it tells me I'm doing a good job. And the other thing is that helps other entrepreneurs know that this content's valuable, because the social media channels, the big guys, they invite those people in. And go to creditsuite.com at the top right of our page. At the top right of our page, you can access our daily tips on Instagram, on Twitter, our live streams on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube and Periscope. You can even access our podcast, the Business Credit Financing Show, which has like nearly 400,000 downloads. So it's a very popular resource people listen to on the go, where we teach you all kinds of things to be able to get money for your business. But then when all kinds of experts come in their industries that teach you how to get IT help, how to build a successful business, how to make your business worth more money when you go to sell it. All those kind of things we do through interviews only on our podcast, the Business Credit Financing Show. So you can access that all at the top right of our page at creditsuite.com. Okay. And so here, Kevin says NAV still allows for one upgrade for an SBSS score. So Kevin did verify, and I knew when I started this question was going to be asked, and I didn't know it. Thank you, Kevin, you saved me, Kevin. Kevin Favorat. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but thank you. You saved me. So Kevin says you can still do one upgrade with NAV to get SBSS. That's the only place I know of to get SBSS is to go directly to NAV to get it. So I really appreciate that as well. And I love it here. I appreciate that, Seth. And thank you all for your help. Great. Gabrielle, I'm glad that you're getting the help from the tribe. Guys, we have a great community. If you really want to be part of our community, go to Facebook, look at the group, Get Business Credit, and join our group. We've got nearly over 40,000 entrepreneurs are in there, all working together as a community to build business credit. People try to sell stuff, promote stuff. We boot them from the group. It's done. We don't sell our stuff. Nobody sells in that group. It's a community of over 40,000 entrepreneurs that are on this planet to work together to get money, build business credit, and help each other. It's the biggest community online for business credit building. It's called Get Business Credit on Facebook. Be patient. We literally get 300 plus invites a day, and our team reviews every one of them individually. So again, be patient. It might take a day or two, but we'll get you part of our community as well if you really enjoy it. And let's talk. I can't take that right now, but Craig, do me a favor. You're on LinkedIn. Look me up on LinkedIn and send that in a message, and I'll make sure I get your number and give you a call. And Kevin says for $49.99 a month is how you can get the FICO SBSS score from NAV. I appreciate that. What about one-on-one business credit coaching? You wouldn't want to do that with me. You'd want to do it with my team. And we do not only coach you through the process, we use software, and our advisors will literally coach you through the process. If you want to learn more about that, just give us a call, 877-600-2487, Courtney, or give us an email, info@creditsuite.com, or schedule a consult at creditsuite.com/consult. Courtney says he has a group called Get Business Credit. He was just talking about that. Okay, that sounds like, okay, anything else here, Courtney? Okay, you guys are all talking to each other, which I love. How can I join the group? Just go to facebook.com and go to if you search business credit, you'll see our group. It's probably number one. Get Business Credit's the name. And then just submit a request to join and we will accept the request. But again, we get 300 plus requests a day. So give them a day or two to review before they'll let you in. But every day they review all the requests and we'll get you in the group. And it's phenomenal, guys. I mean, it's like 45,000 people in our community. We have 60,000 engagements every 28 days. So every 28 days, we have 60,000 people posting, commenting, liking, and how a lot of people get the results is they're part of that community. So if you want to be part of our community, it's called Get Business Credit. Make sure you join. And Earl says, regarding SBSS scoring, is 160 considered the gateway score to get SBA funding? It is. As we talked about today, SBA has 3 programs ranging from 130 to 150 are their score requirements. So lenders are like, okay, we'll just call it 160. Banks typically won't even look at an application with the FICO SBSS less than 160 because SBA's main requirement is 150. So they just round up and say, okay, we're going to do 160. So yeah, banks require typically 160 because for the main SBA loan at a 7A, you need a 150 score. So banks typically won't touch you under 160. Gabrielle says, I'm a customer of yours already. Awesome. I hope that you're getting a good results here like we're seeing in some of the chats today as well. And Courtney says you could search Get Business Credit in the search and they'll let you in. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. we talked about our community today, which I don't usually talk about. I need to talk about that more. Get Business Credit on Facebook. Check us out. You can start getting these kind of results. If you want a free consultation, free business credit reports, give us a call, send us an email, go to creditsuite.com/consult. I've also got a great guide that maps out the steps to build business credit at creditsuite.com/live. Thanks for tuning in. I am live here Tuesday and Thursday at 1, 11 o'clock on Wednesday, almost all the time, except for holidays like Christmas, obviously. Or once in a while, I take a quick vacation with the kids. Otherwise, I am here on those days. So I will see you Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern. We talk about more cool ways to get money for your business. Seth, Happy New Year to you as well. Earl, this has been the only resource on YouTube that specifically addresses the SBSS. Yes, I know, Earl. And there's also a bank rating, which I think we're the only ones that talk about too. And I think we're one of the few that talks about LexisNexis and check systems as well. And guys, keep in mind, not to self-promote, but if you are a client of Credit Suite, we help you get your check systems credit report. We help you get your LexisNexis credit report. We help you fix errors on that. We have a fundability report which pulls lenders' data from the back end that they see that you don't see and tells you all the discrepancies and things that need to be fixed. You monitor your business credit from our system. We have the biggest database of being able to build business credit for your EIN that's not linked to your social. You work hand in hand with our advisors that actually are the ones I meet with every week to get my updated information from. They're more in-depth in tune with the information than even I am because they work with tens of thousands of business owners on a regular basis to help them build business credit. So if you want to talk more about that, give us a call as well. Amanda says, Alliance closes agree is 40 minutes from it will be worth it. Alliance, I'm not sure exactly what that means, but Alliance is a good virtual address if that's what you're asking. So hopefully that helps. I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channels. I appreciate that. And like this video if you got value. And I look forward to seeing you on our next training where we talk about more cool ways to get money for your business. Thanks.